There we are. Yeah, the other thing I don't.
Okay, guys, go.
Hi, my name is Sam Jahari. Welcome to Flint Talk Radio.
Hi, my name is Charlie Buckley. Good to be here today.
Yes, definitely. We want our listeners to please call in and share in our discussion. Community Parent, it was something that we formed after we lost my daughter at the age of 17. Then 2 days later, a friend of hers also passed away from heroin use. And we want to educate you, and we want to bring you guys up to speed because this addiction is just, it's an epidemic. And we want to tackle this head on, and hopefully we can kick its ass.
That would be
Best
nice.
way.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. That'd be great.
All right. Well, I wanted to bring up too that I live in Lake Fenton, and we also lost somebody last week to heroin or to drugs. Put it that way. When we talk about drugs, this is how I used to think, and I'm sure that's how a lot of people think. Is these are losers. These are people that are not doing anything for society. These are the ones that are in the ghetto doing anything for their drugs. Well, what happens is addiction, it kind of takes over your life, and drugs become your master. And 10% of our population, we have these addiction genes. So it's not a matter of choice. The choice is maybe that first time it's choice, but it becomes where it just takes over your life, and you're willing to do anything and everything for your drugs. That's where you end up being a criminal, a thief, a liar, a murderer, whatever you need to do. Sell your ass on the street. Females and males. You become a person that you don't like the person that you're looking at. It's something that it's not these deadbeats. It's kids and adults that come from good homes. Addiction, it doesn't discriminate how much money you have, what color your skin is, or where you grew up at. This is happening in every town, in every community, all through the United States. And we need to nip this in the butt. And that's why we come out, we want to educate you, and we need your help. Because together, we can make a difference. But standing on the sidelines and with our heads in the sand, that's not going to get us anywhere. Don't wait for this to be on your doorstep, because it will. There is no families that's not being touched by drugs and alcohol. As a matter of fact, every 19 minutes we are losing somebody to drugs and alcohol.
Sam, it's interesting something you just said, and you talk about it touching every family, and that we've spoken in the past that it doesn't discriminate, it doesn't know any boundaries, and the only choice we really have is that first time. And with Community Parent, that's why we're trying to get to these kids as early as we can.
Exactly.
Because you can educate them about just saying no, but why should I say no?
Exactly.
And it's hard to it's hard to explain. If you go back 45 years to the Summer of Love, and which I was a puppy, but you were probably there. Yeah. But anyways, that's for another. That'll be a whole other show, folks. Sam's experiences at Haight-Ashbury in the Summer of Love. No, I'm kidding, but you look at the cost of drugs. Now, I'm not talking about the cost to the addict or to the family or society, but what you actually have to pay for the drugs. And I remember when I was in high school, I went to high school in a very affluent area, and people discussed the fact that at certain schools, cocaine, for example, back in the 80s, was very prevalent, where in other areas it wasn't because it was expensive.
Exactly.
And now you've got crack, or not now, but then crack came along and it was very cheap, very inexpensive.
Correct.
Because of what they're doing with the manufacture of the drugs, where before marijuana was mainstream because it was inexpensive. Well, and so you had marijuana at this end and cocaine at this end. Well, now they're whether it's meth or marijuana or crack or heroin. It's all so inexpensive that those barriers, it's another barrier that's been brought down.
Exactly, and the whole thing is too. We gotta bring our doctors into the scene, because doctors are prescribing drugs like it's candy, and 4 out of 5 heroin users, they start with prescription drugs. Right. You played sports, I played sports, but when you get hurt, within 5 minutes he's already writing you a prescription for Vicodin or some kind of opiate. Yep. And for these 10% of us that have these addiction genes, that's all it takes. And a lot of these students that are great athletes have their whole life ahead of them. They get hurt, and they get prescribed some kind of opiate or pain pill of some sort, and all of a sudden, they're out on the street selling their ass to get their their drugs, of course. So this is where we're at in society today. It's not, and it's welcome, because it's coming from a doctor. They think, oh, it's okay, I got this from a doctor. It's not okay. What we need to do is we need to open our eyes to reality. And we need to see the signs. Hey, I'm getting where I'm relying on these drugs. And you'll start shaking, and just like an alcoholic or anything else. Mm-hmm. You will get these, so that you have a problem. What's happening in America? We have 24 million addicts. Only 10% ever actually go out and get help. That's crazy.
Yeah. You talk about the athletic connection, and I look back over the last 30 years, and because of the pain issues that I had from injuries, I never really sat down and thought about it or looked at it and wrote it down. But Darvocet, Percocet, Lortab, Norco, Vicodin, morphine, methadone, fentanyl patches. It went on and on and on and on and on until it almost killed me. And then I found a great doctor locally who specializes in the treatment of opiate addiction, to safely withdraw you. And I went on Suboxone. And I was one of the fortunate ones that had a very good experience with Suboxone. It didn't end up becoming another replacement. But then I had gone to the doctor for another issue, and he said, well, we don't want to put you on those type of opiates, but they just put me back on Percocets. And I was eating them like M&Ms.
Exactly.
And, you had brought up a real good statistic, and I don't know if you recall it. The percentage of all of the painkillers, the opiates in the world. Do you remember what the percentage was that was being consumed in the United States?
96%. 96%. The whole thing is we've gotten to that we think there's a pill for everything, and it's going to solve our, we need a pill to scratch our ass. This is where we've gotten to. And this is ridiculous. I brought this up last week. After I lost my daughter, a couple months into it, I couldn't get out of bed. I was very depressed, and my wife, she's like, honey, you need to, you have 2 other kids that need you. You need to go to a doctor. And sure enough, I went to a therapist, and I didn't want no medication, and I was very strong about that. I don't want no medication. But a month of therapy, my therapist, she thought, well, I think if you sleep more, you might start feeling better. So was referred over to the psychologist, and of course he started out with something to help me sleep. Well, I came back the following month. I'm still not sleeping, doc. So he said, okay, well, let's up this. And I says, well, I'm kind of groggy too in the morning. Okay, now we'll give you something else. Well, within 4 months, I'm on 5 different medications. Now I got one to sleep, one to wake up, one to feel, so I'm not so depressed, one to feel this, one to feel that.
Do you want to show that T-shirt?
Sure, in just 1 second. Okay. So from that, here now I'm on 5 different medications, and this doctor's, next time I come to him, he says, well, how's this working out? I says, Doc, it's not. I'm depressed. You know, now I still wake up in the middle of the night. I'm still not sleeping. I'm still groggy. You know, you give me these happy pills that I'm not so happy. I'm depressed.
Right.
He said, well, maybe we need to change this and we need to change this. I said, you know what, Doc? I says, I lost my child. Maybe I'm just supposed to feel this pain, you know? He says, well, what did you come to see me for? I says, you know, I look right dead at this doctor, you know, with a smile on my face. I said, I don't know why I came to see you, Doc, but I know I'm not coming back. I gave him all the prescriptions and I walked out and never came back. Now, am I done with depression? I still have those days,
Sure.
You know, but I think that's normal. It's normal for us to feel, you know, by covering up our pain and stuff, that doesn't do anything. And, you know, I came across this thing on Facebook and I was really touched by it. It's not just the opiates or anything. You know, if you listen to every commercial that comes on TV, it's for high blood pressure, it's for cholesterol, it's for this, it's for that. But listen to what is at the end of the commercial. You know, they're telling you all the side effects. Now, here's another thing that you probably don't know, but 180,000 people die every year from side effects to pills that we take that we're supposed to take. Right. These are the side effects. You know, there's a lot of side effects to pills that we take over the counter, and some of them are death. You know, I came across this thing. If you would share that with, because I didn't bring my glasses.
I was going to say, why am I reading it, Sam? I think my arms are just longer because...
no, it's because I didn't bring my glasses.
So I left my glasses out in the car, but I think I can get back far enough to read it.
All
right. It says, it's a T-shirt picture that Sam had posted on our Facebook page. And on the back of the T-shirt it says, "I take."
Okay, he's got it. He's got it up.
Okay, so everybody can read that, and you know.
Well, from this, you know, this guy wrote this article, and he says it's kind of funny, you know, the shirt, but he says, you know, it's not a funny matter. It seems like our doctors are giving out drugs for everything. You know, I don't care if it's high blood pressure, cholesterol, or whatever. What happens, something they don't normally tell you, is once you get on these pills, you're on them for life. Mm-hmm. You're on them for life. And it seems like every pill, the side effects, sometimes you're better off with what you got.
Right. And sometimes they give you another pill to take to counterbalance the side effects from the other pill.
Well, exactly. That's what this T-shirt says.
Yeah.
You know, he started out with cholesterol, and he ended up with 6 different pills. Now he's got not only cholesterol, high blood pressure. He's got anxiety. He's got diabetes. From the one pill. Yeah. Is that what started it all?
I was recently talking to somebody who was having a hard time sleeping, and they put this individual on Ambien.
Yep. And
then the individual was having anxiety during the day about the Ambien, so they put him on Lexapro. So they went from taking nothing to taking Ambien and Lexapro, and that's just a real simple, a real simple example.
When I was a kid, my grandparents told me, it's like, try to stay as healthy as you can, because once they get you on medication, they're going to give you another. And this was back, they were coming the perspective in the 60s and 70s, and they were seeing that already. My grandparents did. Yeah. And unfortunately, they died of cancer. They had cancer, and they always had to be on medications for that. And that was something they couldn't avoid. But they always said, once you get one, they're going to give you another, and they're going to give you another, and you're just going to be taking all these medications.
Yeah, and well, the other thing too is your body gets used to taking the medications.
Exactly.
And what used to work, it could be any drug, but let's say 5 milligrams twice a day worked. Before you know it, you're on 30 milligrams 4 times a day because your body just builds up a tolerance to it.
Exactly.
And it's attacking your liver. It's attacking other internal organs. So it's just this terrible snowball effect. It really is.
Definitely.
And
definitely.
One of the things that you mentioned that I thought was real interesting, Sam, is the pain issue. And you can start taking whatever pain drug to take care of the physical pain. And there's such a close tie with addiction and depression. And depression isn't always what I was led it to believe. It isn't always the Eeyore on Winnie the Pooh, where he's kind of walking around with the cloud over him, and it's always the rain cloud is following him. it can peak and valley, and what happens is it kills the physical pain, and then you start to notice that it's killing emotional pain. So it's almost a positive reinforcement, which isn't a good thing, because then as it grabs a hold of you, it takes away all sensation. It takes away all emotion. So people that know me or that knew your daughter, for example, faith and family, very, very important. But you get hooked on or dependent on, these substances, and like what you said to start out the show, the things that you never thought you would do, people you never thought you would neglect, things you never thought you would say.
Exactly.
You're doing all of it. You're doing all of it,
Exactly.
and you can't stop.
Exactly. My daughter, me and her, we had this relationship that she loved me and I loved her, so much. But once she got onto drugs, it wasn't about me or anything else. It was just she wanted that drug, and that came first. That becomes your God. That becomes everything to you. And the whole thing is, mentioning God, I think we need to know as a people, the devil is getting stronger and stronger. And that's the key thing. I think the devil can only get in our brain is when we're weak.
Right.
And when you're on drugs, your brain isn't right.
No.
And, I was watching a show about the end of time, and that's what they said. Most people that are addicts, that's why it's the devil that's got a hold of them.
Right.
And is using the drugs to keep a hold of them.
Yeah. The counselor that I see down in Fenton, and he's a NAA DAC and CAA DAC certified counselor, Peter Healy, great guy. He's helped me a lot, and I guess that's a free plug for Peter, but it's more than worth it. He has this great depiction that he'll do on a whiteboard, comparing addiction. Addiction is nothing more than something, whether it's food, drugs, sex, alcohol, shopping, gambling, pornography, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's anything that separates you from God. Doesn't matter whether if you call God, Yahweh, Allah, Jehovah, as I say, that the tree in the corner. It's whatever your higher power is.
Exactly.
And it's like a wedge. And when the addiction is small, or when that separation is small, it's down here and there's a slight separation. But it grows and it grows, and that wedge opens up until you are so far removed from God, you've sold your soul, you've lost it.
Exactly.
And like you said, and it works. It'll sit there. It's patient. Mm-hmm. It's
well. The whole thing
patient.
is, I think what happens is at a time that we are lowest or we are in so much pain that we go to the doctors because we're in pain or we're depressed or whatever, and the whole thing is we don't want to give them so much power. Doctors aren't everything. Now, I'm just a parent and Charlie is just a coach, but I think what we want you to do is empower you to hold these people to higher, question them. Go see 2 or 3 of them, Don't just take it on this one. Now, my own personal doctor, okay, he turned my daughter away because she was an addict and she was belligerent in his office, so he sends me a letter, she can't come to my office. Another thing, here's a doctor in the ER, okay? A doctor in the ER, my daughter had done $700 worth of heroin. She's so messed up. Okay, they don't want to send her to jail. They want to make sure she's going to be okay. So they send her to the emergency room. The doctor is yelling at her like she knows any better. She's an addict. And here is a doctor that should know that this is a sickness and is yelling at her, why should I even do anything for you? Well, I got all these people that are sick that are looking for beds. You're doing this to yourself. this is how I used to think too. Addiction is not choice, people. It's not in your hands. It's not in your hands. Nobody wants to be selling their ass on the street to get their drugs. You can bet your ass on that.
You know, it's real interesting, the awareness. You know, we're on a crusade for education and awareness, especially for our kids.
Exactly.
And I'm sure what you and I have spoken about it's making us more self-aware, you know, obviously in the process. You know, I was sitting at home last night and, you know, you're flipping through channels and VH1 pop-up video. Whitney Houston was on singing one of the songs from The Bodyguard, and they start, you know, popping up all the little trivia things and stuff. And I started thinking back to the mid-'80s when she first broke out onto the music scene. She was basically a gospel singer.
Exactly.
You know, her faith was very, very important to her. And then you fast forward 30 years.
And her husband.
Yeah, but you know, but you fast forward 30 years, and physically she may have resembled her old self, but you know, if there was an X-ray for your soul, you know, she was done, and it's so sad. You know, and those are the people, unfortunately, that get all the publicity: the Philip Seymour Hoffmans, the Heath Ledgers, the Whitney Houstons, Janis Joplin's, Jim Morrison's, Jimi Hendrix, so on and so on and so on.
Exactly.
But during that same period of time last night, it was probably 30 minutes, and I was just flipping through, trying to find something to watch. Whitney Houston was on. There was a thing from a biopic on Elvis, you know, another lost to addiction. And then there was a concert, the Doors at the Hollywood Bowl, July 5th, 1968, and, you know, Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
I mean, and now granted, these are entertainers, but still, you're looking at all these people that should still be alive today. I mean, Jim Morrison, you know, is my dad's age. Well, so's Mick Jagger, and if my father ever wore pants that tight, I think I'd vomit. But I guess that's another topic.
You know, that's just it. You bring up a good point that that's when it's brought out into the daylight, I guess, when we lose somebody of stature, I guess. You know, that's an entertainer or whatever, Michael Jackson or Whitney Houston, or. But the whole thing is, like I said earlier, every 19 minutes we're losing somebody, okay? And just because we don't hear about it, I want you to know that every 19 minutes, this is taking more of our lives than any sickness or any diseases that's out there.
No, well, the statistic that I use when we talk to the kids is I say that this year in the United States alone, we'll lose 200,000 people directly to the disease of addiction. 88,000 of those will be to the disease of alcoholism. And that's not counting where it's a contributing factor. I mean, that's just this is the cause of death.
Sure.
And that is more deaths than all forms of cancer, HIV, AIDS, car accidents, and war in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah,
you know,
it's nuts.
That is really crazy. And you know, I talked about the doctors earlier. You know, it's funny. It's like we're at a party or at work or whatever, and you know, you say you got a headache or my foot hurts or something, and 10 people, well, I got Vicodin, I got Lortab, I got this, I got that. You know, and it's accepted. It's accepted right. Because we're getting these from doctors, and it's really unacceptable because so many people are dying. So many people are dying.
There was a statistic that, I mean, keep talking, Sam. There was one that I brought up last week, and I wanted to see if I could actually find how much actual training and education the typical GP has on addiction. I mean, it's woefully inadequate, regardless of what it is.
Sure.
But I don't remember exactly what the number was.
Well, I wanted to share with you that next week we are going to be at the Goodrich Middle School on Monday, Monday the 24th at 8:30 in the morning. The following week we are going to be at Beecher High School that Monday. That's the 28th. So sorry, it was the 21st. The 21st is next
Right.
Monday at Goodrich Middle School. The 28th, we are going to be at Beecher High School at 9:30 in the morning. And we welcome you to call us in, give us your point. We'd love to hear from you. But we also welcome you to come to any of these presentations that we put on. And we welcome you to join us. Again, like I said, one hand can't clap by itself. Okay? We need you. We need everybody to come aboard. Do not wait till this is at your footsteps. Because together we can make a change. We can make a difference. And I'm counting on that.
I found something.
All right.
Now, this is from the New York State Department of Health's website. Now, this is just New York State. And it says that the New York State Department of Health strongly urges physicians to become qualified to treat their patients who are addicted to opioids or to advise such patients to obtain treatment from a qualified physician. They mention a few statistics. They say that 1.8 million New Yorkers require assistance with chemical dependency. That's, again, just the state of New York. And that emergency room visits due to abuse of prescription drugs are higher than the number of visits due to the abuse of marijuana and heroin combined. And that for every person addicted to heroin, which is obviously huge, there are 2 people addicted to prescription narcotics. Now, what they don't say is, of those 2 people that are addicted to the prescription narcotics, once their insurance runs out or they can't afford to pay for those pills on the street, what's cheaper? Heroin.
Exactly.
And it's according to the addicts, it's a better high. It's a quicker high.
Exactly.
So that's the natural progression of this. According to a survey of teenagers by the Partnership for a Drug-Free America, 1 in 5 teens has tried prescription pain relievers such as hydrocodone simply to get high. That's not because they've been put on them by their doctor for a pain issue. That's 1 in 5 strictly for the reason to get high. Now, this is according, again, to the New York State Department of Health, and I'm going to read it straight from their website. How you can become qualified to treat opioid addiction. All right, you ready for this one?
Sure.
Among other things, subspecialty board certification, but not less than 8 hours of training.
Wow.
So you've got a disease that's killing 200,000 people in the United States, and here's the New York State Department of Health saying that
8 hours.
not less than 8 hours of training in treatment and management of opioid-dependent patients from the American Academy of Addiction Psychiatry and the American Medical Association, the AOA, blah, 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 blah. 8 hours.
That's just crazy. It really is.
8 hours.
Now, we are not addiction specialists or anything like that, okay? I come to you as a father that lost a loved one. And if you ever lost a loved one, you end up with this hole in your heart that never goes away. When you lose somebody, a part of you goes with them, and you never get it back. What happened is, after she died, I started speaking out, and as I spoke out, it seemed like everybody was coming out of the woodworks. And to be honest with you, I was getting cards from all over the state of Michigan, that people that this was happening in their homes. So I learned that there's an epidemic going on, and it seems like every time I picked up a newspaper, they were talking about heroin is making a comeback. Heroin is making a comeback. Why is heroin making a comeback? It's because of the opiate use.
Right.
And,
And it's cheap.
Exactly. 20 years ago, our pharmaceutical companies decided, hey, these opiates, can make us so much money. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about the money and greed. That's why we are here. That's why when I lost my child, I opened my eyes for the first time and seeing things of reality. It's all about the mighty dollar that they don't care how many we lose along the way. A couple months ago, our FDA approved a drug that's pure hydrocodone. pure hydrocodone. So the biggest pill that we had was 10 milligrams. This is pure. It doesn't have anything else. It's 50 milligrams. So it's easy. It's easy to be ground up, smoked, or snorted. And the whole thing is doctors were telling the FDA, do not approve this drug. But do they care? No. They approved it anyway. I get so frustrated. It's like, trying to get into schools and stuff. You have this resistance. What is it with the FDA? They're supposed to be out protecting us.
Right.
Are they protecting us? No.
Well,
because they're getting paid under the table to pass these things.
That's what I'm going to say. You've got the lobbyists out there that, there's good correlations to be made with the pharmaceutical lobby compared to the tobacco lobby, and what the tobacco lobby did years ago. And
exactly.
When this stuff comes out, and the truth always does come out, I'm living proof of that. When the truth comes out, there's going to be a lot of people that are shocked. Not because you're not telling them, not because that the information isn't out there, but there's going to be a whistleblower at some point, or there's going to be a scandal at some point where people aren't going to be able to stick their head in the sand about it any longer.
Exactly.
And, Sam, you brought up another good point with the doctors that, we haven't really touched on. You said 96% of the opiates that are produced in the world are consumed in the United States. And the difference between Western medicine, which is, the doctor we go to on a regular basis, and Eastern medicine is vastly different. There's been some things for the pain issues and sleep issues and anxiety issues and stuff that I have that now that I'm no longer taking the benzodiazepines for anxiety and the sedatives for sleep and the opiates for pain, herbal remedies. And not all of those are safe, because many of those have, some very similar characteristics. But if you were to take a Western doctor in the U.S. and say somebody in China, Eastern medicine, you're going to go in, they're going to look at your tongue, they're going to do acupressure on your feet, and look at your hands and your skull and your scalp, and they're going to make teas and poultices and different concoctions. Well, they work.
Exactly.
But the difference is they don't work as fast. It takes time. And the money's not there.
Yep.
Bristol Myers Squibb, and I'm just picking, that's the first name that came to mind. I don't even know what drugs they make. But, they're not out there, and maybe they are, so, but, they're not out there promoting some sleepy time tea.
Well, that's it. A lot of the medicines, they came from herbs.
Yep.
And through time, you don't see nothing of this herb in the medicine anymore. It's all turned to the synthetic, and that's why there's a big, side effects to all these drugs, because it's man-made stuff. It's not the herbals or
Well, that's just an aspirin, for example, which is something that is pretty benign unless you have some other issues with your blood or with some organs. But in 1829, scientists discovered that it was a compound called salicin. I'm probably butchering that, but it was from the willow plant.
Yep.
And that's where aspirin is derived from.
Right. But is there anything of the willow anymore?
No.
You can actually find the stuff. You can find the willow that comes from pretty commonly. I mean, it's all around. And the Indians actually came across that. The Native Americans, excuse me. They actually would scrape the bark off that and brew it into a tea or some kind of a tincture or something like that. And that's what they applied. I mean, so they were onto it. It's that stuff's available. They want to synthesize it and then make it so pure that it actually is destructive. Like that's the reason why I'm on board for the medical marijuana thing, is because the people say to me, well, why don't we just synthesize it and pass the pills out? I said, then they're mixing, there's a lot of chemicals in that that actually is buffers against some of the more negative aspects of the other ones. I said, if it's got to be taken as a whole. You isolate one compound, you're actually, you're not having the same effect.
Exactly.
You actually have an over effect. But they want to make it automatically pills. I don't know why people are just so fascinated by pills in this culture. They have a hard time consuming, like the Eastern approach you talk about to medicine. They see food as a medicine.
Exactly.
They subscribe like introduce ginger or turmeric or whatever into your system.
Ginger, turmeric, all of those.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then all of the other things like acupuncture, acupressure, massage, yoga. Different things to calm your mind, calm your body, strengthen the supporting structures of the muscles around your spine, around your knees.
Right. That's what they always said. I mean, another was too like the man who developed. Kung Fu developed her own, the martial arts developed her own. He actually saw his people when he was given like these religious, rigorous thing of a meditation, which is a rigorous thing to demand from people. He would find they were unable to do that, so he introduced the physical aspects of it to actually strengthen them, to prepare them for the meditation, and combined, it was like they understood the mind-body situation much better in the West. And I'm a big fan of Western culture. I'm not mocking it.
Right.
But I just don't believe anybody's got all the truths or all the approaches that are needed. So
exactly, and I think as a people over here, I think we're realizing that modern medicine is not really working. As far as having an operation or something like that, we are tops in the field. But as far as the medication and stuff, I don't think doctors really understand. They're just taught push this, and but it doesn't heal anybody.
Right.
All it does is just get you sicker. And here, have another pill. So I have a restaurant and a grocery store, and I sell a lot of the seasonings and stuff, and I get people that are looking for this. Oh, I heard it does this. I'm looking for this oil because it helps with this. So as a people, I think we're starting to self-educate ourselves, and we're looking for something different. I was in a car accident in 1990, and from the Motrin, I ended up with ulcers. So I had to take Prilosec every day or I'd get heartburn really bad. And, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's like, dude, there's a supplement drink. It's called Zango. I'm not pushing Zango. I'm not pushing anything on you. I'm not a preacher. I'm just a father, and I'm telling you what, experiences I've gone through. So I went, and it was a board-certified doctor. And he was board certified in Canada. He's board certified in the United States. And he was talking. He's been a doctor for over 20 years. And he said, for every medicine that's put out or every drug, all the side effects are in this book that doctors are given. He says, I'll be honest with you. I see patients every 5 to 10 minutes.
Right.
I don't have time to look at all these. He says, I'm not knocking my profession, but within first couple minutes that you're telling somebody your symptoms, he's already writing your prescription.
Yeah.
He said, I know, I'm a doctor. He said, but it's not working. He said, I had this patient from 10 years back. He said, one of the side effects of this pills that I gave her, he said, was breast cancer. She's like, Doc, why didn't you tell me? Give me that choice to say, no, I don't want that. I have cramping in my legs, and this doctor prescribed this medicine to me, and I took it home, and you get this pamphlet with all the medication. Read it, So I was reading up on this. I'm like, man, I got cramps in my legs, but one of the side effects was seizures. I said, man, I can live with the cramp. I can't live with the seizures,
Right.
So when I went back to the doctor, why didn't you take this? I said, because it causes seizures. She got a big laugh out of it, but we got to take control of our own lives, of our own destiny.
Well, another point on that topic, though, that does concern me is I think we are responsible for educating ourselves.
Exactly.
However, because of the fact that we have no tort reform in the United States, the pharmaceutical companies err on the side of caution, and no matter what the drug is, the list of potential side effects reads this long because they want to cover their ass to the point where nobody can say ever that you didn't tell me that it could cause this or you didn't tell me that it could cause this.
Exactly.
Because they don't want to be sued.
Right.
And I think what they need to do, you go to McDonald's now and they tell you how many calories are in a Big Mac or whatever, but list the potential side effects, but list them like almost like we do in ingredients. If you buy something that's prepackaged, they have to list the most common ingredient first. So list the most common side effect first, and then do it in decreasing order, so that you don't just look at it and also, so we as a patient don't err on the side of caution and say, well, seizures is one of those listed. It might have happened at one time out of 10,000 patients.
Exactly.
And, but you don't know because everything's listed.
One out of this.
Well,
that's where I had to make up. Do I want to take a chance here, or I can live with this?
Right. The other problem is now though is they list everything. So the list is so long that we almost dismiss it automatically because it's like, well, they've got to do that. They've got to list these things.
I don't know. To be honest with you, it's like what I've seen. We go to a doctor. Okay, I got in a car accident, and from the car accident, they says, you've got 3 slight herniation in L3, L4, L4, L5, L5, S1, in my lower back. Okay, the doctor, he says, I want you to go into the surgeon. I said, okay. So I wait for the surgeon. He says, oh, no, he wants you, the regular x-ray wasn't good. He wants you to go get a CAT scan. I said, okay. So I go get a CAT scan. It shows the same thing. Okay, now I'm getting ready to go see the surgeon. No, he wants you to go do this dye test. Go do the dye test. Okay, the same thing. I'm ready to go see the surgeon. No, I want you to go see the MRI. Come afterwards, I found that this surgeon that I'm going to see, he owns this building where I'm getting the CAT scan, the dye test, and the MRI. Right. Here's a couple $1,000 every time, if not more. I don't know exactly how much something costs, but because you got good insurance, you don't know if they're sending you to these tests because you need it or because there's money in it. And if you got good insurance, oh my gosh,
What's the first question you get asked when you call to make a doctor's appointment?
Well, insurance, yeah. And the whole thing is, it's like before they used to see you, then you pay your copay or whatever. Right. Now, give me the money up front.
Right.
And
I guess that's why I don't go to the doctor because I don't have any money.
I mean, what the heck happened? I used to think a doctor was like a minister or something. It's like they had a calling to save lives, and it's not about that anymore. It's about the mighty dollar.
But many of them do. I mean, they do, but it's like anything else. You could take somebody that gets drafted into an NBA team. Well, they started out when they were playing basketball when they were 5 years old because they loved the game. Well, 15 years later, they're
burned out.
Well, they're a freshman at Kentucky. They know they're there for 1 year. They're going to go to the NBA the next year. And UConn beat them anyways. That's just because I'm a UConn fan, but UConn beat them anyways, and they're not there to be students. They're there to spend a year, get the exposure to go to the NBA. Well, these doctors, they come in, and many of them, like I said, they have all the best intentions. But now you've got the lobbyists, you've got the pharmaceutical reps. And I have friends that are pharmaceutical reps. And the one thing that has changed is there have been a lot of changes to what those reps can do in the doctor's offices as far as samples, as far as entertainment. Now, there's loopholes for everything, but they don't have the carte blanche that they used to have. So that piece is getting a little bit better.
Well, I think, because these news reporters, they got them so many times, because I remember I seen this on 2020 or something, and, where they took these doctors to this, it was a big Carnival cruise or whatever, right. And it's, oh, look at this, just everything is paid for, and, well, my gosh, you see what they make every quarter? Yeah. That's just crazy. Yeah. And I feel like, just like with cigarettes, they knew this caused cancer. Oh, they knew that they were going to lose so many lives. But how much money did they make before they actually made them pay? And they're still making it.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about flour. Flour, you know, in the 1960s, they added all this gluten into it, where flour just was very minute in the gluten. And the whole thing is what they did is they addicted us to this, you know, and that's the way they're selling. But look how many people are sick because of the flour,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, you have kids now that are born with gluten allergies that, you know, I don't even know. I think when I was growing up, if you heard about food allergies, it was peanuts. That was about it, peanuts or chocolate. Now you get these kids that, you know, they can't have gluten, they can't have peanuts, they can't have chocolate, they can't have wheat, they can't have this, they can't have that, and you wonder, well, you know, what's the root cause of all of that, you know?
My thing is too, it's like so many chemicals used in the processing of foods, and then so many chemicals they put on fertilizer. The food we get, you go get vegetables and stuff, that stuff's not really representative of what we used to have in vegetables, because the soil that's grown in is so depleted. They put chemicals into it. Those chemicals are manifested in the end product, the vegetables.
Exactly.
And then those are hard for the body to. Yeah, they're similar to what used to be in there, but the form of it is not as easy to breaking down, and some people's bodies just can't process that. But no, it's insanity that and a lot of times the stuff is done by the government demanding certain things of producers of anything.
Right.
The pharmaceutical
Exactly.
companies, I mean, they have to jump through hoops. You know, like doctors, the reason why they do what they have to do, and they want to make so much money, because they have to pay liability insurance.
Oh, God.
Because you already alluded to, there's no tort reform.
Correct.
See, and again, it goes back to the government. Let's face it, they're not going to undo themselves. Many people who are in legislators are trial lawyers, and that's who makes the big bucks doing these lawsuits for, like, you know, bad medicines,
And the
whatever.
class action lawsuits. The average person that's involved in the class action gets a few $1,000. You know, you hear that this class action
Yeah.
lawsuit has occurred and the payout was X billions of dollars, but the person lost their life and their family's compensated a few $1,000.
Yeah, and the attorney who brought it to trial, or brought it to brought the settlement on, is walking away with $45 million.
I know.
You know, that's a good point that you bring up. Our government is not looking out for us, I'm sorry to say. You know,
Oh, come on,
we
Sam.
as a people, we need to open our eyes and make these people, you know, they're supposed to be working for us. And all they're working for is their own pockets. I don't care if they're Republican, Democrat, you know, they might have a good cause, or they speak a good game, and you think, oh man, this one he's going to actually do some work for the people. And once they get into office, you know, those lobbyists, they start throwing money their way, and they forget why we've voted for him, why we put him in office.
You don't have Barack on your speed dial?
And the other thing is too, though, I think the problem is, even in the good intentions, and I don't think there's very many out there politicians who fall into that category, but it's a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, we see this problem. This is a problem we got to address, and they like basically kill a spider with an axe. They go over on overkill. It's like they apply this, and they had this one instance where they had this problem crop up. They basically focus on that. They don't see where their proposed cure is actually going to cause more unintended consequences that are less desirable than basically they want to create a perfect world, and they think they're going to do this by a lot of legislation.
Right.
And what it does in the process is you screw up on one thing, you fix one thing, and you screw up 4 other things in the process.
Well, we were talking about that last week. You know, there are so many times they're trying to legislate a public health issue, and the article that we referenced last week about the mandatory prison time for the possession of heroin was so ludicrous, because we had looked at the statistics of marijuana offenses and what it cost the taxpayers just in direct taxpayer dollars. And the analogy that I used was that it was akin to finding somebody that has lung cancer or emphysema. If they're caught with the possession of a pack of cigarettes, they're going to go to jail. Well, by the time you have lung cancer and emphysema, if you're a smoker, it's a full-blown addiction. It's the same exact thing.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I didn't realize until I was an inpatient down in Brighton, they had a smoking cessation class. And John alluded to it before, as far as the additives. I just grew up assuming that nicotine, for example, was... I grew up in Connecticut. Connecticut's the largest producer of shade leaf tobacco for the cigars, for the cigar wrappers. And I just always assumed that nicotine was a natural byproduct or a natural ingredient in tobacco. It's not. It's sprayed onto the tobacco
Exactly.
as an additive.
exactly. You know, I grew up in Lebanon, and I remember having like great uncles and stuff that lived to 95, 105. You know, they smoked to the last day they lived, but they rolled their own cigarettes. You know, you could see their burns in their hands. You know, but it didn't affect them.
Right.
You know. Well, that's what it is. Even our drugs, you know, they came from good things, but then when they put the synthetic in it, they ruin it. They ruin it. And the whole thing is, it's all about addicting us, you know, to more and more, you know, so they can sell more. Or,
Well, actually, in tobacco, actually, American producer of cigarettes, which is the largest producer of it, I mean, that's one of our biggest exports. They introduced, I had a friend of mine who was a neurobiologist, and he told me that he tested it. There's shaved chocolate compounds on the tobacco. Shaved chocolate is toxic when it's burnt. When you can eat chocolate, and it has good effects, but when it's burnt, chemically changes it. But they put this on there to make the cigarettes taste sweeter, because Americans are addicted to sweet taste and stuff like that.
Right.
And it's actually it rides piggyback with the nicotine and stuff like that does a detrimental effect to human lungs and tissue. So, I mean, it's something, and there's other chemicals that the government's required the tobacco growers to put on there that actually, it's not just one addiction or one or two addictions, there's a multiple layers of chemical addictions to the cigarettes.
Oh yeah, you get the cross addiction. The graphic they showed us, if I can find it for next week, I'll bring it in and we can put it up, you know, just briefly. But even the stuff like in the filters, they'll talk about the filter material, and it's the same material used in jet fuel, or it's the same material used in plastic bottles, or it's the same material used in that replaced asbestos, or, you know, whatever. And it's the actual tobacco component. I know we're getting a little bit off the track, but the actual tobacco component of a cigarette was the smallest impact. It's all the other stuff.
Exactly. You know, once you start opening your eyes and seeing the total picture, it's crazy, you know. And that's the whole thing is, again, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, hold these people accountable for their actions. We need to start impeaching people. We need to start throwing people out on their heads, you know, that aren't working for the people. And that's where it starts. You know, government is supposed to be for the people. They're supposed to be protecting us, and they're not. And the whole thing is, every time they pass a certain law, or they pass
try to
a
impose
food
term
or whatever,
limits,
you know, they say, okay, how many people are we going to lose because of this? You know, it's okay to lose so many of our people. Bull crap.
Look what's going on right now with General Motors with this ignition issue.
Exactly.
I mean, it all comes down to the dollar. They're looking at, if we don't fix this, if we don't do a recall, this is what we should expect to pay out.
And at the time that this happened, who owned it?
Right.
Our government.
Basically, like Ford or Pinto. I mean, they actually knew that the thing that existed with the gas tanks, but they said it's just more cost effective to get sued.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. That's Zohydro. You know, they approved it, even though doctors were saying, "Hey, this is very addictive and this and that." You know, like we don't have enough pain medicine that we needed this other one. You know, and they passed it anyway. They do not care about the people.
Well, one of the things that shocked me, Sam, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this was one of the issues with Brianna, is if you go back, again, it doesn't matter how many years, but if you go back and you take cocaine for example, it comes into the United States in Form X, and it has a certain potency, and by the time it gets to the street level dealer, it's been cut with another substance 2 or 3 times, and they used to use like powdered milk, which I think the worst thing that it did for people is it gave them diarrhea. Well, I know the problem they've been having with the heroin is they're actually cutting the heroin with fentanyl.
Yep.
And I mean, fentanyl by itself, they put me on a fentanyl patch. That was, the reason they put me on that is because the OxyContin wasn't working. So they're putting me on a fentanyl patch, which is stronger than OxyContin. Well, they're actually cutting heroin with fentanyl.
Yep.
I mean, was that, again, I don't want to, you know, to dig too deep. It's something you don't want to, you know, get into. But if it wasn't Brianna, I mean, I know that's been a problem in the area. Is this fentanyl laced heroin?
Well, you know, they told me that but it was pure heroin. But do I believe anything they tell me? No.
Yeah.
No. You know, I believe that the system is failing us every day. The system is failing us. The people that are supposed to be there to help us, they're not. Okay, I don't know if they don't have a clue or they just that's just another addict. Let them go by the wayside or what it is. From the sheriff. I mean, they're my friends now, but they failed me. The police force, they failed me. The court, they failed Brianna and me. CPS, they failed me. Department of Human Services, they failed us. Okay, you look to these professionals like they have a clue. Well, they don't.
Well, the other thing, in slight defense of everybody that you just mentioned, one of the things that I think is sad is if you look at our civil servants, our public servants, and what they are paid versus the workload they are given, that professional in CPS or the probation officer, or I'm not talking about the judges, and I'm not necessarily talking about some of the other individuals, but some of the people that I really, the social workers and stuff, that I still believe the majority of, they're not getting into it for the money. Those people aren't getting into it for the money, and they have a caseload.
I'm sure they do. Okay,
but
every time that we lose somebody, they say, "Oh, because CPS, they came out to this home and this kid ended up dying. They came out 3-4 times, and their caseload is so big or whatever." The whole thing is, I find that as I went through the system, I was looked upon like I was to blame. And I found, since I've been speaking and since we've been going in front of these kids, over 35,000 kids, there's a lot of messed up parents.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? But they're minute to the ones that are good, But we're all put into the same page. Oh, they're all bad. Yeah. So if your kid ends up in front of a judge, you're looked upon like you're to blame. That's not right. That's not right. And we change laws or we make things happen because of these bad apples, but there's a lot of good apples out there that are there.
I can look at my own family and, I thought I was a great parent. I was terrible. And today, fortunately, my kids are doing very well. But they're not doing well just because of something magical. Their mom and their stepdad, their grandparents, their stepmother, their teachers, their coaches. It is the village to raise a child. Because if it was just dependent on me, oh God, I thought I was doing right, but I wasn't. And I wish I would have known some of the stuff I know now. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Sure.
That's
sure.
The problem.
Yep.
Or one of the problems.
Exactly. Should we close it out here, John?
We can wrap it up. Yeah, you got a couple minutes left. Anyway, we'll also give out the dates I'd suggest again, the immediate ones here in the next couple of weeks, okay?
Okay, the 21st of May, or 21st of April, we're going to be at Goodrich Middle School at 8:30 a.m. And April 28th, we are going to be at Beecher High School at 9:30 a.m. Again, we welcome you all to come join us. Join us in this fight because we lose people every day, but the ones we can save is definitely worthwhile.
Absolutely.
And
it could be your child.
Exactly.
Your brother, your sister, your mother, your father.
I was gonna read this off, and people tell me like, why do you do this? And let's see if I can even find it now. Again, we will do this next week. I lost my child. Okay, I can't bring her back, but hopefully I can. Something I say or in these presentations, we can save your child. Hopefully, this doesn't have to end up at your footsteps like it did for us. Hopefully, we can save a lot of kids, by hearing our message. And really, the reason I started doing this, I didn't want people to remember Brianna because she died of an overdose, but from her story, how many she saved along the way. So that's why we do this. We're giving back, okay? And no matter how hard it is, because it's very hard. I'm whacked for the whole week, to be honest with you. I'm like a zombie, but it's worth it when these kids come up and they really appreciate your story and say, hey, I've been smoking marijuana, I've been drinking, but after seeing this, I'm not going to pick that stuff up again. It's worth it then.
Yeah, we always say, any of the shame or embarrassment that I bring upon myself, what people perceive as shame or embarrassment, if we can just save one person, it's worth it.
Exactly. Well, thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you next week
You got
at
it.
the same place.
All right. Thank you very much.